You're watching the Bitcoin Mining Show, brought to you by Altair Tech. Mine your freedom. Hosted by Cinco Doggos Mining. And now, without further ado, here's Cinco, Bobby, and their special guest, HODLTarantula.
Hey everybody, this is Cinco coming to you with the Bitcoin Mining Show. We're going to be talking a little bit today about some cool stuff involving one of my favorite people to follow on X, a guy who does some really cool stuff with Bitcoin mining that most of you guys probably have never even thought of that can be done. This is one of those you can just do things moments with Bitcoin mining. And we're going to be talking with Mr. HODLTarantula today. I also have my sometimes co-host Bobby with me. If you guys watch Midweek Mining for the Bitcoin Army, you'll see him on there. This show is brought to you by Altair Technologies, altairtech.io. Thank you guys for sponsoring this. We wanted to do a series on just kind of like the unsung heroes of Bitcoin mining, the people who are doing cool stuff out there with Bitcoin from the mining aspect, but maybe we think they just don't get enough attention for the cool things they do. Hodl, man, thanks for coming on. We appreciate it. And glad you're taking some time. I can see you're actually out in the field doing your thing right now. So we really appreciate that, dude.
Yeah, man. Out here in the middle of the field right now. Thanks for inviting me on the show. Really appreciate the opportunity to talk a little bit about the journey and what I do day to day. I don't know if I would say I don't get enough attention, like you said earlier, but I got a big mouth, so.
Hey, I feel you, man. I'm the same way. Bobby has to reel me in all the time, so I get that. Sometimes I don't know when to shut up, so he'll flag me. He'll be like, Cinco, shut up. So we're just going to kind of focus today. Like I said, it's a Friday afternoon. You're done for your work week. Don't want to interrupt you too much, but
done for the work week. That's hilarious. You don't know too many off-grid Bitcoin miners, do you?
Oh, see, that's what we're going to talk about, man. Now you get to educate us. But before we get into the meat and potatoes of it, for my folks out there who might not know who you are yet, would you mind? Can you kind of just give us a little like the elevator pitch of who you are and how you got into Bitcoin?
Sure. So I'm Tarantula, better known as HT, and I've been mining Bitcoin since 2017. Background before that was automation and robotics, and so it was easy for me to get into Bitcoin mining. And then the introduction to Bitcoin was, let's say, precarious at best. There was a little bit of burn on the shitcoin side, and then I started to recognize some patterns, and it just kind of clicked. So in between, I've mined Bitcoin on almost every form of energy available except for fusion or nuclear, and done wood gasification, hydrogen projects, solar, wind, supplemental, natural gas, flare gas, abandoned wells. A lot of stuff since I got into it. So I have a broad knowledge on energy production from many different sources, everything from hydro and hydrogen all the way to chemical energy out here in the oil field. And the just constant learning and drive.
I feel you, man. Hey,
where we are here.
Have you figured out, or have you seen that as you like go through this? And you obviously, I mean, a lot of this stuff is just kind of uncharted territory. You're kind of, I don't want to say make it up as you go, but you use your background and you kind of apply it to this. Have you found that, like, especially in petrochem, do you find like people are, is there pushback, or is there like people are accepting of it? Like, that's a cool idea.
No.
We're into it.
No, there's too many benefits to what we're doing out here. And they're starting to see them now. Like when I dropped facility out here or, deploy on a wellhead, that gas was choking the well off before, stifling oil production and other things like that, usually because it has nowhere to go. Once I come in and drop, an operation into a place that was before, shut in gas, not having flare permitting, dealing with restricted gas flow because of flaring permits, then I can come in and offtake all that additional and opens up the well that allows it to breathe more effectively, and then more oil production can come in after behind it. And so it's something that they're incentivized to do if they have opportunities.
That makes total sense, man. And that's kind of cool because like it's kind of a net benefit for everybody involved.
Oh yeah, I
Yeah.
just took a wellhead that was doing like 6,000 barrels, and then after I got there, I'd say probably maybe within the first quarter, maybe the first 3-4 months I got there, they're producing almost 13,000 barrels of oil at that point a month.
Wow. So I'm sure they're super happy with you guys. That's good though. That builds those
Oh,
relationships. Now they're like, hey, put it on all the rest of our stuff.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, straight up. I mean, it's a no-brainer if you're actually willing to sit down, have an open mind, and a conversation about it.
That's pretty cool. And Bobby, like I said, man, just jump in. If you want to ask a question, just let me know and I'll shut up.
I was looking at some of your guys' questions that you had earlier, that we were looking at earlier. I thought they were pretty interesting questions.
yeah.
Yeah, go ahead.
Oh, yeah. So, because you find stranded energy, you can buy older miners, like I think S9s, right?
Um, I prefer to go with like an M20S now if I could. I mean,
Oh, okay.
there's some operators that could potentially run those if all their costs are, recouped on their generation, things like that, and they're just purely operating at, 0 point onward. They could essentially run S9s. You got to realize though that power generation is going to come with maintenance, and so there's no such thing as actual free power. So, eventually you would maybe reach a point where the cost to operate it may exceed what it costs you to maintain it versus what you're getting on the revenue, depending on the fleet of ASICs you have.
Okay, so it's mostly like kind of mostly.
Well, yeah. So, and you can salt and pepper them into an operation, or you could even optimize your operation and like introduce a secondary type of revenue stream that doesn't compete. Secondary non-competing revenue stream off the same power source will help offset your cost of the mining operation, and you can then continue to use it. Like
Yeah, and
sovereign
you
hybrid
see,
compute, the company
yeah,
I'm
I was
building,
just thinking, like,
you know,
with the big miners, you see a bunch of them getting into AI and HPC, and you have sovereign hybrid.
right. So, right now, being flexible and able to deploy operations like that, it gives you more an edge. Does that make sense?
So, do you have sovereign hybrid compute servers and ASICs at the same locations?
Yeah, there's it's a hybrid deployment, so that like the name implies, it A6, LPC, HPC compute, all operating off of the same power sources.
That's awesome. That's awesome. So yeah, like when we run into the problems, Bobby and I talk about this kind of frequently on the other show on Midweek Mining, especially when we had the cold snap here. I'm in Houston. Bobby's just right outside of Houston as well, and of course, the first thing we get worried about is ERCOT and power going down across the state like it tends to do in Texas at times, and like it did back in the February
Mm.
snap a few years ago. Is that something y'all don't even have to worry about, right? Because you've got your own
Yeah.
power generation.
Yeah, I mean, so like when it comes to energy, power is the lifeblood of mining, right? If you want the edge, you got to go to where the energy is cheap and you're not going to be an individual who's being asked to turn off, right? So that's stranded energy all day long. So especially flare gas because it turns wasted fuel into productive infrastructure.
That is so awesome. I love it. Let me see here. I'm going to kind of go down the list a little bit here before we get into how you turn Earth farts into Bitcoin. Let's see here. So just real quick, and I know we just touched on it a little bit, but if you don't mind, just before you got into Bitcoin, you were in like automation and robotics. Was that kind of your thing?
Yeah. I worked heavily in automation, robotics, industrial systems, control infrastructure, mechanical processes, basically, maintaining a very soon deploying infrastructure that solves real world problems. And so for Bitcoin mining just kind of felt like a natural extension of that world when it comes to the hardware aspect of things and the infrastructure. It was easy. Just basically it's applied to economics instead of manufacturing now. So
Yeah, man, just meshes. Yeah, it just meshes. That's awesome. That is so cool. So early on, when you first started trying all this stuff, any big mistakes that were made that you're like, oh man, that was not how we should do this? Like just anything that like comes to mind?
let's see. I would say biggest mistakes or biggest mistake would be trying to just build cheap, right? The mining punishes shortcuts harder than almost any industry that I've seen or been involved with. Cheap infrastructure turns into expensive downtime. And so for me, the lesson was simple. Build it right the first time, we pay for it twice. And this saying that we have, buy once, cry once. Otherwise, go home.
That makes total sense. Absolutely. Yeah, you don't want to cheap out on the things that are going to do that. So no, that's good advice, I think, for anybody involved in any type of Bitcoin mining. You got to be careful with what you do. If you cheap it out, you get what you pay for, right? You get what you pay for.
Mm-hmm. Especially with power generation.
Yeah, and that's something you don't want to mess around with. I could just imagine. I was on nuclear submarines when I was a younger lad, and messing around with anything nuclear, and then you slap a bunch of explosive torpedoes in that same little human fish tank that we had, and safety is all it's about. So I can see that's probably the same way out there with y'all.
Pretty much.
Yeah,
You don't get many chances to mess it up.
Big boom you don't want going off.
big boom's not good. Yeah, big boom's not good. Let's see here. Okay. What types of energy sources are most exciting for mining right now? Like, what are the things that you're excited about with what you're doing and other things you see out in the world that you're like, that's kind of a cool project?
Well, it kind of depends. On what you are most, I guess, all about, right? So, like, for me personally, I'm biased because of what I do. I found flare gas in abandoned wells way back in the before times, and now, but before that, I used to think like solar or wind supplemental because it helps with their cost and everything. But then I learned more about how damaging methane is and like how much how many benefits come with this to the environment. And then it kind of drew me towards it even further. I mean, so like for me, flare gas is still the most exciting source. It's wasted energy that's turned into Bitcoin while reducing emissions. It's economic and environmental alignment that most people don't expect. And so it's a really powerful model. And and that's personally why I think it's one of the most exciting. People may not think so. You know about it and understand everything that's going on behind the scenes. And I think a lot more people would be a lot more excited.
Yeah, when I first saw what you were doing, it's incredible because I hear so many people say like, "Oh, Bitcoin is ruining the environment," but what you're doing is the exact opposite. You're taking the methane out and producing CO2.
That's right. That's right. Most people don't think about like all the way to the end. They just think what they
Right. Like now taking that into consideration for like our folks that may not live in an area that has, oil or any type of oil, speculation or production. I'm used to driving around Texas. We see the vent pipes with the little flame coming out the top. To us, that's just part of the landscape. We're used to it. But, for some people, they might not even know like what that looks like unless maybe they watch Landman or something like that, to kind of get an idea of what that is.
Mm.
Do you find that do you ever encounter people that have like, even on X when you interact with people, do you ever find that there's people that have a misunderstanding of what you're doing, like, and think that it's something else?
Oh yeah, I meet people all the time that they're in a very elementary place when it comes to their cognizant understanding of what's going on here, right? It like I was saying before, they just know what they hear in the news, right? And and a lot of people, oil and gas is, they put a lot of money out there to make their flare problem go away, right? And so people aren't educated as to how bad flaring problems are, across the world, not just in the United States, but it's everywhere. And so they, one, don't even understand that really there's a problem that is a pretty large scale problem, but there is a solution for it. And so, uh, yeah, quite frequently in the fiat normal world, I get people all the time that have absolutely no idea what's going on out here. There's zero understanding or awareness. It's, they only know what they know and what they're told. If they're not willing to go outside of the bubble that the fiat regime creates around them, what are you gonna do? Can't expect everybody to be what would we say? Uh,
Think for
Personally
themselves.
responsible. Go
Yeah.
and learn things on their own. Don't talk like that.
Yeah, I think that's what's great, and that's one of the things that we try to do. I'm not some Mr. Beast big dude doing it. I just try to help people understand things from our point of view. So it's times like this that we get to talk to somebody who is a subject matter expert on it and say like, hey, maybe you have some misgivings about what this is. Maybe it's due to, without sounding mean, ignorance on the part of the person receiving. Let's try to get you some information here so you can make a better decision on what this is. Because when I saw this, and again, I've lived in Texas now. I got out of the military over 20 years ago. I've been down here ever since. And I just I'm used to it. I deal with oil and gas people every day because it's my neighborhood. I'm just used to it. But a lot of people around the country don't have that. They don't have those interactions. A lot of my friends that were nuclear engineers now work for, GE, Chevron, a lot of the big companies. So, I mean, there's exposure. But for those folks out there that don't, definitely take a look at it. Don't just get what you're force fed. I mean, that's kind of the fiat mindset, right? Being force fed your information. And I think that's kind of one of the things that you try to get through to people on your X posts as well, is, kind of get out of what you're being told and go look for yourself.
Yeah, verify. Don't trust.
Yeah, I think that's one of the best things in Bitcoin. And it applies to so much outside of Bitcoin too.
Oh yeah.
Absolutely.
And this what you're doing right now goes kind of hand in hand with the whole proof of work thing we always talk about, right? A lot of Bitcoin maxes, we talk about proof of work. It's proof of work in Bitcoin, shows what it's doing, and then proof of work in your own life, right? So you're literally out there every day doing it. This is not a hobby for you. You're not in a garage right now doing it as a side gig. You live this. Like, you are 100% invested in this and in what happens. This is it's kind of like pushing the chips into the center of the table with this. You ever get any butterflies in the tummy about that?
No. No, not even a little bit, ever at all. I mean, that would mean that I'm doubting myself. I look at what we're building here. Look at Bitcoin. We're talking 20,000 plus nodes across 156 countries. There are guerrilla miners out there in other parts of the world already dodging legislation and mining off grid illegally in countries like China and other places. I've seen guys backpacking through the forest where you go through my timeline long enough and you'll see me having ASICs strapped to the top of an ATV, taking them off into the Appalachian foothills to wellheads that are abandoned and just overgrown roads and nothing there. We build our own roads and build our own infrastructure, power and all. And so I can tell you with all assurance that this cannot and will not be stopped. So butterflies, no, especially when I understand that out here, there are men like myself who are willing to go out into the last mile, build edge type infrastructure, and continue to push the frontier no matter what. We're not going to do it and stop. We're not going to do it. We're not going to stop. And like I've said before, they want me to, they're going to have to put a bullet in my brain. I know many other people out there who value their sovereignty and the ability to protect their wealth and, all through space and time more than what most other people will. And like, so again, say we're not going to stop. There's no way in hell that I ever am worried that Bitcoin is going to just not be a thing at this point. So, I mean, especially considering that for that to actually occur, they would have to literally shut off the entire internet to the whole world. And we still got satellite and ham radio we can send UTXOs through. And so, again, you know, as Christine Lagarde has already admitted, if even one file survives, we're back. So, do I worry? Do I ever get butterflies? Absolutely, 100% fucking not.
I love it, man. That's great. I love the conviction. That was the answer I expected, but I just wanted to hear you say it. That is awesome. Bobby, before I get moving with any more questions, you got any interjections you'd like to add?
No, man, I just love it. The whole fact that like no one can stop it. It is true. Decentralized throughout the entire world.
Absolutely.
Yep. And most important aspect of it is when you think about it, the network itself can be decentralized and hidden behind Tor, etc. Right? And now mining, we have SV2, which obfuscates our protocol to the pool and gives us more security there. What we have is, in my opinion, even better now than it was ever before because our network's getting pushed further out into the last mile now. It's decentralizing the actual energy aspects of the infrastructure even further than it was before. As AI comes into the scene and pushes all these large operators off the grid, they are forced out here into the oil field in the last mile, decentralizing the actual infrastructure itself that supports this network even further. And so, I mean, again, that says a lot, I think, when you think when it comes to Bitcoin's ability to survive and longevity.
Absolutely, man.
What was that you mentioned? SV2?
It's a mining stratum protocol that's utilized for
Oh yeah,
how you
Stratum.
connect to the mining pool. Yeah.
Oh, okay.
That's awesome. Yeah, and it's that explorer mindset that's great. I mean, that's just it's so cool to see that there's still people, here it is 2026, people are pushing boundaries. I think a lot of people think that the world itself is kind of like set into a pattern, and then when you look, you say no, that pattern can be broken and should be broken. It's that, Satoshi started it when he put out the white paper. There was other people before him, the different hackers and punks back when I was a teenager in the 90s saying, nah, we don't really agree with this stuff that's going on. And it just keeps going and going with that decentralization. Do you feel that without, we're not going to get into like a whole political discussion, but do you feel that mining centralization is an issue right now?
I would say that at the pool level, but there's already tools being deployed to start help to decentralize further mining operations from the perspective of the pool. I've been saying this for years. I have on my timeline, if anybody cares to search, many posts stating that, a lot of pools are just proxies for others and there needs to be more available alternative options out there. And if not, there, at least push for people to, run solo mining pools, or, not all of the home miners out there is that it may not seem like they're doing a lot, but, I see solo miners and other solo mining operations lots of the time. So it's not for nothing. I encourage people to continue to do so because it just helps decentralize the hash rate even further.
Right on, man. Love it. Love it. Jumping back in time a little bit to our conversation, because that's how my brain works. When you guys first set up, like the first time you did this and you set up and started grabbing that strand of gas and you said, okay, we're going to do this. How did that feel? Like when you looked and you started seeing everything rolling and you're like, this is working. This is actually going to freaking work. What was that like?
My first thought was, Good. This is exactly as I have planned, projected, and modeled. Except for, all the little hurdles and things in between. But I expected those because I had already been building things for quite some time. And so I knew that the obstacle is the way. And it was just a matter of, making sure all the pieces fit together properly and it would work. It was more exciting for me to see large producers start to take us Bitcoin miners in the oil field seriously. That was like I started seeing that by 2023, 2024. I started seeing guys out in Bakken like Devon Energy and other people, Enterplus, Wano, they are starting to allow their miners to come out to the field in mass and like large operations and not just like little pilot programs or just a larger competitor like Caruso. So that was for me more exciting than just the first operation I put together on flare gas. And because I had, again, I'm like an energy alchemist and a friggin' wizard. So I had already built so many different things that I've seen work. I'm just like, yeah, that'll fucking work. So what are we waiting on? It's capitalize this thing. Let's be and like knowing that going into it, the excitement wasn't as much, but I mean, still there. But I continued to get excited. Constantly because things are evolving in this industry that are exciting in general. Like seeing ASICs go from air cooled hydro, watching the evolution of how they deploy that out into the field and everything else, especially oil fields and everything. It's pretty exciting in general. So, I would say when does the excitement stop? It does.
That's great.
Now, especially with the heat punks, what they're doing is amazing. Heating their house, heating pools, heating driveways, heating walkways.
Heating whole cities in Scandinavia.
Yeah.
I have watched the evolution of this heat recapture from ASICs like 2017, 2018 when I decided to get into mining. And by the end of 18, I had already redid the duct work in a 500 square foot home I had built down in Kentucky and put a handful of ASICs in there and was already heating my house. And so watching it evolve and go from very cool implementations to what we're seeing now with water, hydro cooled solutions, creating efficiencies for people in their houses, like, heated driveways and everything else. It's just absolutely incredible. I love to see it.
Yeah, I've said several times what heat punks are doing makes me kind of jealous because here in Houston, I mean, we could do that for maybe two, but out in like Chris from Altair, he's in Upper Michigan, like he gets to do it a lot. It's awesome.
Yeah, no doubt, man, no doubt. And the craziest things I do with it is, let's see, I heat for those like 2 weeks in the winter that it's actually cold enough. I'll heat my sulcata tortoise enclosure out in the backyard for my 68-pound tortoise that lives out there.
Nice.
And I use an S9. I just stick an S9 out there and I keep the window cracked and I just, I use like a Brains OS on it to regulate the temperature so I don't turn her into gumbo. And, other than that, I mean, like, I make biltong, like beef jerky. I use an S9 to make beef jerky with. That's about it.
Respect.
So, yeah. No, that's good stuff. Let me see here. I'm going to look through the list a little bit. Okay. So do me a favor. Walk me through like what this is going to sound weird because I understand with you being a guy who's out in the field doing this, the word typical is not usually used. I totally get that. What's a typical day for Tarantula out in the field?
So most days start with checking energy systems, generators, gas supply, electrical infrastructure, and then it's basically monitoring hash rate and machine uptime, facility conditions, and check and make sure things are clean. Do we need to replace filters or clean off anything in the data center? mining is a constant balancing act between energy production and computing output, right? So you're managing both sides of the equation here in the off-grid situation. So you can't have one without the other, right? You can't have the mining without the energy production, obviously, right? So you always start, at source. Go first thing I do when I get to a site, I go look at the blade sock, see which direction it's going in case there's an emergency with the gas or the H2S issue or something. I know which direction I got to head off into for safety purposes. Then I go and I check the wellhead, gas pressure, see what the flow rate looks like on the meters, and check all that, temperatures and everything else. Make sure all that's good. If I see any issues with that, reach out and talk to the producer or pumper. Then I walk my gas line transmission back over to where the gen sets are, check the rest of the field out. Get to the gen sets. That's where all the chemical energy is turned from chemical energy goes to mechanical and then to electrical, right? And so I run and do a standard operating procedure or walkthrough and check on the generators, looking at the different components, fans, pulleys, cooling belts, things like that. Make sure that there's nothing obvious, that raising red flags and need attention immediately by a technician. Everything is good there. We look at our power, look at the balance of the three phases, the load, the current, how it's being distributed across the three phases. If there's any balance of the three phases, let's say I got 100 amps on each of the three phases. If any of them are more than 20% off, then I need to correct that load. So it's like, let's say one of them's phase one is 70 amp, two is 90, phase three is at 100. Well, I need to figure out what the issue is, or if it's not possible for me to bring the power load back up to 90 to 100 amps on that single first phase. On the first phase, then I need to reduce the load on the rest to redistribute the power evenly across the three phases so that I don't destroy the actual electrical infrastructure, creating the transmission for power. And so if everything looks good there, then we proceed into the mining operation side of things and look at, we have filters, fans, louvers, and things like that that have to be looked at and inspected, cleaned, and things. And I'd also, so everything else there is good. We have the ASICs and their hash rate managing them, which is done with software automation software that kind of tells us what everything's doing, if it's working or not. If it's not working, we, pull it, tag it for repair, slot a new one in there, get it configured, and then network to the pool, and take the other one out, send them out to repair, or have a technician that I have deployed on site to repair. And then basically, if anything needs a reboot or anything like that, perform that. Soft reboot, notified, secondary, then third, it's not responsive, and essentially ensure the optimization of the hash rate in the container. And when it's done, go to the next site and do it again.
Do it again. Do it the next day again. So no, that's a boring life. That sounds real boring to me. It's yeah.
Yeah,
you might think.
Yeah, I think one of the most impressive things you do is how many hats you have to wear. Like you gotta procure the energy, you gotta run the gen sets, and you gotta do regular work. You get to do basic repair. So I got a question.
Mm-hmm.
If someone wants to get into this, should they become an expert in one of those fields, the rest later, or just become competent in all of those and then go into it?
So if you want to do flare gas mining or natural gas, learn power generation. Like that, learn the generators. Knowing the generators is like they're the heartbeat of the operation. So if you can understand power generation, then you got half the battle right there. The other half is just dealing with managing fleets of bases and when you're out here in the elements in the oil field, that can be tough at times, but really that's just slotting them, and sending them out for repair and then configuring them to the pool. Rocket science is not super hard. And it just requires consistency. Now, power generation, I have seen all kinds of things from the well field wellhead to gen sets to electrical transmission. That just things will be put together and running great, and then the next thing you know, it's just not. And that's just a nice way to put it. And so the I'd say the thing that anybody that wants to try and start on their own doing this and who doesn't have a lot of capital or time to waste, which nobody does nowadays, is learn the power generation side of things. That's so good.
All right, guys, quick shout out to the sponsor of today's episode, Altair Tech. If you've been thinking about getting into Bitcoin mining or scaling up your current operation, Altair Tech is who we use at Cinco Doggos Mining for our hardware. They're veteran Bitcoin miners, so they actually understand the equipment they sell. They ship fast from the central US, keep a large inventory of in-stock ASIC parts, miners, PDUs, and accessories ready to go. Whether you're starting small with something like an Avalon Nano 3S or scaling into the 200 plus professional mining rig range, Altair Tech has the gear to help you grow. And if you're new to mining, they offer free consultations to help you choose the right hardware and strategy. So head on over to altairtech.io and use discount code Cinco at checkout. That's altairtech.io, code Cinco. Altair Tech, mine your independence and start stacking sats the sovereign way. Right on. Let's see. You got any more, Bobby, before I move on to the next question?
Yeah.
Hit it.
So since you're using distributed energy, big thing in the news right now is the gas prices going up. With the stuff going in Iran, all of that's drastically the price of energy. So because you use stranded energy, does that affect you at all?
So with the stranded energy sites, I'm locking in the price, right? And I'm bringing to the table and presenting to them the fact that they have no cards to play with. This energy wasn't going anywhere before. It wasn't hitting the market before. It's not hitting the market now. So, if they want to continue to just have their assets sit there and not hit the market, they can try to match these market prices and, strong arm means paying a higher rate than what it really is worth. Because without the millions of dollars in infrastructure that it would take for them to get it there, and then they have to go through a mission company and everything else to get actually hot tap into the pipe and offtake happen, they will have nothing. They already can't capitalize it. And so that being the case, and knowing that I hold the cards, just basically hand them the deal and say, look, think you leave me, Sunder's better than nothing, and right now you have nothing. So let us make you something, and then we'll grow from there. Usually
Sounds like
it's
a great
favorable.
position to be in.
Well, competition's starting to get fierce. People are getting wise, and like I said, the larger players, they're getting pushed off of the grid power by HPC, and because of that, they're coming out here into the field and trying to get with guys like me. But fortunately, these producers, they don't like tire kickers and they don't like suits. They like guys like me who know how to build and ain't afraid to get their boots dirty. So it's pretty easy for me to come across gas contract if I need it. But
That's cool. That's proof of work again, like we said right there. I mean, they like dealing with people that, for lack of a better term, that look like them. The guys that they know, you kind of have a similar mindset, even though you kind of got like a different way of going about it. It's still the same mindset. So either side of it's proof of work. So that's pretty cool.
Man, proof of work is our law. That's it. I mean, if we're not pushing forward on the shoulders of giants who built on the foundations of proof of work, then it's all doomed to fail like fiat illusion,
Yeah, exactly.
Man, how far, just thinking like how far we've we've fallen from that time. And I'm kind of waxing nostalgic here, but that time here in the U.S. where, everything was about pull it up by your bootstraps, get the work done, show your work, and that's what will matter. Man, how has that changed when we look at like social media? Like that's it wasn't the way for a long time, but I think slowly the ship is turning a little bit. I think some of these the young generation, I'm hoping isn't going to be like that. I'm hoping that they think proof of work is the way to live. So, I mean, it's guys like you out there putting that blood, sweat, and excitement into it, not tears, but excitement that show that like there's a worth to that proof of work. So that's gotta be appreciated by the future generations.
I like to hope so, think so, because I mean, if they keep going down the path of fiat fuckery and imagination land living, dude, they're not gonna get any better anytime soon.
I feel you.
We're all privy to the news, and it's just like with the proliferation of like decentralized social media like Nostr, nothing can be hidden anymore now. The cats are out of the bag, and like what do you say? Like we're living through the fourth turning now.
Absolutely. Looking down the road 5 to 10 years, where do you see what you do as an industry? Where do you see it 5 to 10 years from now?
So I see it all like Bitcoin mining in general, along with other forms of compute. I see it going toward distributed edge facilities. So like the one right here behind me is Upstream Data Box and like other similar style deployments. Smaller, smarter deployments that are tied directly to energy production, less mega warehouses and more strategic infrastructure styled nodes. Mining will become embedded in energy systems all over the friggin' world. Like there won't be a single place that doesn't have a mining deployment or some type of other compute style infrastructure at the actual energy source in the last, what we call the last mile.
That's great. Yeah, that's that whole like it's the mind shift of going from why to why not, right? Like we kind of saw that I think over the past few years, and I hate talking about like finance and crap, but like you saw like these guys that are, these Wall Street guys they looked at Bitcoin for so long and said why, and now the mindset isn't why, it's why not. So like
Right.
that's kind of where I think you're getting to right there with in the power generation industry.
So, I mean, I think that edge compute and energy infrastructure is just going to be more important in general as AI and data demand are like blowing up beyond what anybody would have ever imagined. It's exploding faster than centralized infrastructure can handle, right? And that pressure pushes compute closer to the edge, closer to where energy is produced. Mining proved that model works already. And now the rest of compute is following too. And that's where I and my other business partners at Sovereign Hybrid have found success.
That's awesome. If you don't mind, because we're kind of like 3/4 of the way through this now, and I don't want to keep you all afternoon. But speaking of sovereign hybrid compute,
that's fine, man. Like I said, I'm good.
I really do appreciate that. I do, because I think people I think they want to know this stuff. They just don't realize they want to know it. Sovereign hybrid compute. Can you tell us a little bit about that? Kind of what you guys do with that, what the theory behind it is, like what do you provide?
So sovereign hybrid compute is about turning energy infrastructure into decentralized compute infrastructure. So instead of massive centralized data centers, we build distributed facilities tied directly to energy sources. Bitcoin mining anchors the economics and compute workloads expand the capabilities.
Fantastic. So, I'm sorry, go ahead.
Mm-hmm. So I was gonna say, think like AWS, but hub and spoke distribution, privacy focused and oriented. Essentially, all your VPS, VPN, VM services. But again, paid in Bitcoin, you KYC yourself how you you want to. I'm not going to force you to do it in a specific way. And then like I said, being a decentralized provider instead of like a centralized system set up like AWS or Azure, those disk providers, they'll have a hiccup and a third of the internet goes out. And that's just wrong. It shouldn't be like that. We need to break that mold and rebuild it. And way to do that successfully to where we can avoid these types of issues and outages is to build in this hub and spoke decentralized fashion out in edge infrastructure in the last mile.
That's
Yeah, I
great.
think the fact that you're decentralizing it is great because, like, I work in IT, and every time AWS goes down, I'm getting calls left and right, just constantly sector, and it's like, oh yeah, AWS is down.
Mm.
A couple months ago, actually, AWS, Azure, and GCP were all down at the same time. Yeah, so there's just no internet. Like, it's insane how
So
centralized we've got.
one actual entity owned all the infrastructure that was provisioning probably all three of them at one time. So there was a bottleneck somewhere, either at a power plant or somewhere in one of the facilities that, BGP peering happens to or something else that caused a complete shutdown for all three at the same time, I would bet.
Yeah. And if it was decentralized with operators like you, that doesn't happen.
Correct. So that's what
Lost
we're doing
failures.
at Sovereign Hybrid Compute.
That's awesome. So do you have like for sovereign hybrid compute, do you guys do you have like a trying to think of the right way to put this, like a type of customer, like a class of customer? Like, are you dealing mainly with businesses? Do you got guys like me who say, oh, I want to, have a VPS for my OpenClaw and I'm going to buy something and do it on that? Or do you guys like just do whoever wants to do it? Do you have like a kind of a niche for that?
Yeah, we're open to all types of clients. We have corporate clients, B2B, and personal account clients as well too. So private clients.
Right
So
on.
there's no I guess you don't have to be a mega corporation or anything to utilize our services. In fact, we pride ourselves in being able to provide services at 10x cost less than what any of these other disk providers are out there doing because of how we build our infrastructure, so
That's
that
cool.
other people like yourself can use it.
That's awesome. And again, like you said, and Bitcoin's the anchor of it. So that kind of, that all ties all that in together with the whole mindset of proof of work, decentralization, putting the power back in the hands of the person, not the corporation. Kind of cool.
I mean, you got companies out there like Hetzner, like Bobby, sure you've heard people getting denied accounts and stuff like
Oh
that.
yeah.
Talk about you're not doing anything wrong even, and they're treating you like a criminal just for trying to spin up a VM. Like, what is this? So like that happened to me with my business partner Demi when I started going down this path, and I was so livid. I was like, you know what? This is ridiculous. And he's like, yeah, I know. That's why we want to own the infrastructure. And I was like, yes, 100%, absolutely. There's no going back. So that's what we do. We own outright all our own infrastructure and deploy accordingly on that, so that we can't be told no.
That's great, man.
Yeah,
What?
actually, before I got into Bitcoin, I was big in the home labbing community, and a lot of the ethos transfers over because it's like we're all running servers and hosting our own apps and care about data sovereignty. We're not going to be on a service that pulls the plug and then now we can't watch the show we want or the music we want. Like, we're gonna let that do it ourselves so that no one can take it. And
That's
that's
it.
amazing about the Bitcoin ethos too.
That's how I got started off grid. I got into a fight with Duke Energy after I popped one of their transformers like a cherry. It was like a little bit of a battle I went through with them. They wanted me to pay different tier demand charges and everything else, changing out this transformer, and I was just like, you didn't say anything to me about any of this. You're not willing to negotiate it. They said, well, we're the only providers for electricity in the Tennessee Valley Authority, and Duke Energy provide solely to the tri-state area in Ohio, Indiana, Kentucky, and to the southeast continental United States. And they were telling me that there's nobody else that you can get power from. And I said, you know what? Fuck you. We're going to go make our own power. And that's what I did. I started building mining operations on like alternative energy sources that were 100% off grid. And like you said, I taught myself and I just learned it and went and did it because you have somebody there pulling the plug on me. No, no, sir.
Yeah, independent on other people like that. It's kind of, I don't want to call it hypocritical. Maybe it's a little, maybe it's a little ignorant of those of us out there that say, you know, we're all for this, we're all for that. But then you turn around and you're, you know, completely tied to something that can just turn you off because they don't like what you're doing like that. So, I mean, it's great. I don't know how else to say it. It's just great.
Well, in those people's defense, you know, a lot of them would like to, you know, do things differently, but then they have a lot of red tape and bureaucracy surrounding them in their little, you know, 15-minute cities, you know, your suburbs and stuff like that. You put together a voice amplification unit and your neighbor's 5 feet from you. It could be a homeowner association or somebody. They might not like any of that.
You can get a knock on the door. Yeah, you're going to get a knock on the door.
You know, so it's like, if the people don't like it and they're serious about it, they're going to have to go somewhere else because what they're stuck in is just like a system that doesn't want them to be solvent. It needs them to be reliant upon centralized services and things like that. Otherwise, you know, there's going to be a lot of middlemen and politics that you get put out to passion, as it should be already.
Yep.
So, you know,
so
do that.
Yeah. And that's the good thing about things like what you guys are doing over at Sovereign Hybrid. That way there's options out there. Sorry, I had a little bug flying past me. There's options out there for people that are interested in that say, you know, I can't do it myself. I can't go out and tap my own wellhead, but there's these guys out there. Get out of here, bug. There's these guys out there that are doing this cool stuff that I'm still participating in the decentralization. And there's an option for them. And that's good because for so long, it was either you do it the way of the big guy who tells you how it's done, or you don't do it. Right. So now we're starting to see options. So that's fantastic. Okay. Switching gears a little bit on that. So going back again, cause again, my brain's a little retarded. What do you guys prefer to use? Do you guys use air cooled? Do you use hydro? Do you use immersion? What do you guys tend to use?
So a lot of people deploy out here air cooled, right? In the oil field, just because they're cheap and they try to deploy as low cost as possible, right? So people ask me air cooling or immersion, hydro. Well, each has its place depending on the scale and the environment, right? Air cooled, you know, pretty much still wins for simplicity with field deployments, like out in the oil field, just because of how simple it is. But hydro shines at scale out here when it comes to, you know, the longevity of your fleet, the static environment that you get with hydro blade servers like micro BTM63 is way better than what you're going to get off of like a, you know, S19 or something. Things are exposed to the elements constantly. They're getting destroyed constantly, right? You got high iron content dust that you know, a rain, humid. Now it's a conductive material in dust. And so you're shorting out PCBs and power supply units and things like that. So it really comes down to where you're deploying, how you're like, what style operation you're deploying. And, you know, the best operators, they know when to use each one, right? In each scenario.
Gotcha. That's cool. I'm sure you kind of keep an eye out on the new developments that come out in Bitcoin mining devices. Is there anything that's kind of caught your eye that you see coming down the pipe that you're excited about?
It's been actually out for a little while now. It's the Avalon. Avalon has started producing these ASICs that will operate for I started building out single phase, 120 volt, 240 power, and did a 200 kilowatt operation in a shop I built in Kentucky before I got into the fight with Duke Energy and went out here. And so home miners, those guys, they always have like a special place in my heart. Like I really love them and appreciate them guys because they're doing what they can to get the sats or like solo mine, and it's like it just feels like pennies, and it's like discouraging for some, like unless they're like orange blooded like me and would just keep their miners on even in the red. It don't matter. They're just there to support, contribute, and like have some KYC through that. So if they're paying premium, and that's fine. I've done that before myself, and so I get it. But Avalon has an ASIC that has a nice joules per terahash rate. It's like plugs in 120, and it's quite a lot more formidable than just a bit axe. So I think that's really cool and exciting to see those things come back, because for the S9, unless you were willing to go out into your garage and rewire 240 off your panel, you weren't really going to be able to run an ASIC or mine until the bit axe came out and the third miner. And there was just a lot of like question in between. A couple people like Altair Tech, actually one of your sponsors here, they actually, I think, with a can't remember what it's called, Loki board, I think. And then you can actually take an S19 board and run it with 120 and PSU. And so I think that was pretty cool when that came out. But I mean, now it's not an adapted, thrown together thing. Now this is actually a whole product, probably in an American manufacturer that is built to, specifically plug in at your house at the wall instead of, the alternative is like the BitX or the Nerd Miner, which is
Nice.
great for lottery play. But I mean, if you want to have like $30 at the end of the month that you stacked off of like, some savings you managed to, scrape from somewhere, well, that BitX ain't gonna do it. And like, there wasn't anything in between really until now that do that. And so I feel like that makes that exciting.
Yeah, I kind of chuckled right there because, like, I live in an apartment. I can't run an S29. Wait,
Right.
but that Avalon Q, that's 90 terahash.
Yeah.
I got 2 of them now. I'm starting my own farm. Eventually, I'm gonna get a SAT. Oh, get into hosted mining probably, and
then you're gonna learn about HVAC issues in your house and how you're gonna.
Yeah. I do IT for an HVAC company, and I'm like, you know what? I need to learn about HVAC while I'm here, and I got the resource.
Yeah, highly advisable.
Absolutely.
For sure.
Yeah.
We do some training for technicians, and I'm like, okay, I got to sign up for some of that training.
The more you learn, the better you are. That's one of the great things about everything involving Bitcoin mining is that you can do diverse education with it, kind of put your fingers into a bunch of different things and learn. I started tapping into things when I started getting hardcore into mining a few years ago, and I started really looking into it. I didn't realize how much of like my Navy training started coming back to me, soldering boards and, watching power, fluctuations and, especially like I was on submarines. So anything involving ventilation
and shit like that.
Yeah, it all started coming back to me, and I was like, oh man, I thought I'd never use this shit again. Algebra from high school, I was like, oh my God, here we go. The teacher wasn't wrong. Here we go. Now I gotta, but it's cool though at the same time. All right. So, Tarantula, do you have a favorite mining device? Like if you had to say, you know what, this is my baby. This is the one I'll always remember. I'll always go back to her, with fond memories. Which one would it be?
So there's one, it's like an M32, What's Miner. That thing, along with the M31S, those things were absolute war horses. They were built to run hard and they just keep on hashing. And the best part about them was the hash boards were interchangeable. along with controllers and PSUs and everything else. And they didn't care. Like a lot of newer ASICs now, you change the hash boards, swap them. They have bin numbers and serial identifiers that are cross-checked by the controller boards before they'll even initialize and start hashing. And so they make it really difficult for field techs to just, fix, consolidate, repair, get things back going on the fly out the field without having a bunch of testing equipment and stuff like that. And so those ASIC models are so beautiful because it didn't matter if you have a fleet of them, you could take boards off of any of them and swap them in and out and no problems, controllers, go. And they were very robust, hardy, well-built units. The individual who engineered the S9 is the same individual who did what's mine. So no surprise to me that it's not, very well constructed piece of equipment. The S9 was the last good thing Bitmain ever produced. Everything else,
dude, I wish I could turn my camera and show you guys. And Bobby knows this because he lives near me. We've talked. We've hung out before. But I have, like, I'm looking to the side right now. I've got a wall of S9s over here that I still have. Just like, because I don't want it. Sometimes I'll give them away.
Right over there.
I gave Bobby a couple, but like if somebody has, they're getting into it, I'll be like, here, have an S9. That's my go-to. Is like, I feel the same way. It's like, man, that was my baby. I love the S9. But like you said, like, there's some cool stuff coming out nowadays. Like, I'm interested in the more efficient units that are coming out. I like what Canon's been doing. They created the first ASIC Bitcoin miner, so it makes sense that they're kind of saying, like, we're going to try to revolutionize home mining. So I get a kick out of it. They're not sponsoring me and they're not paying me to say that. That's just my opinion. Yeah, man, absolutely. Now we're going to switch gears on this real quick.
Sure.
What is a hot take you have about Bitcoin or Bitcoin mining that you think most people would disagree with? Put you in the hot seat.
Hot take.
I'll tell you what.
About mining?
Yeah, either Bitcoin mining or Bitcoin in general. Could be either. So.
Oh, okay. I don't really do hot takes very often. Let's think about this. I'm more of an observer.
That's fine. I'll tell you what. While you're thinking about that, I'll switch it up just a little bit so that we can come back to that. Do you guys run your own? Do you have like your own pool that you use for all your equipment, or and I'm not asking you who you're partnered with, but if you are, or do you partner with like a larger pool to do your stuff?
So, it depends on the operator, like the client that I'm building for. If they require, X stability in revenue because there's, investors and other things like that, then there's pools that I direct them to where you can get agreements made for preferred pool fees in relation to hash rate and that. Is, solo mining is the high risk side, high reward frontier, obviously though. But, if both have their roles, if one of my operators says, the client says that they can weather the storm for a couple months if they don't hit a block, then, we could get them set up on solo mining. Just, depends on the risk, that the client and operator that I'm building for at the time can take,
That makes sense. Yeah, that risk tolerance. Yeah, absolutely. Let's see here. Sorry, I'm kind of looking at my little screen.
You want to ask the book question?
You asked the book question. I'm gonna go ahead and scroll my screen real quick. You go ahead and do that for me, Bobby.
Okay. So as you probably know, there's a ton of great Bitcoin books. So what's your favorite?
I like the Bitcoin Standard. It's an oldie, but it's a goodie. And me and Cypher have a little bit of a history that's kind of funny too. And so, I mean, aside from that, it's one of the clearest explanations of why hard money matters. And it lays out everything about money up to where we are today and how Bitcoin works in between and is better. I think it's well written, straightforward, easy to understand.
Yeah. It's the GOAT for a reason. I mean, every Bitcoiner I know who talked about book mentioned the Bitcoin standard.
Yep. That's one of my 3 recommends. I always tell people that. I always send them over to Lawrence Fard as well, because I think if somebody has like an inkling of finance understanding and that's the angle they're coming from, I think that's a good one for them to kind of take a look at, as, when he starts talking about what happened and how he saw it as a finance guy. But yeah, Bitcoin Standard, I mean, it says it right in the name. I mean, and I remember reading that book the first time and just like poking my wife, like laying in bed reading the book. I'm like, look at that. She's like, stop it. I don't give a shit. Now it's funny because she can quote it. You know what I mean? Like, my wife's completely orange pilled, but like, yeah, she can
Thought
quote
you
that.
meant something else when you said poking your wife at first. They're killing me over here. I gotta get out of the whole field, man. Jeez.
Right? Okay, so let's see here.
Hey.
Oh man, we're kind of getting toward the end of the period here, so that way we can kind of start wrapping this up with you. We talked about all this other stuff. Got that. We talked about hydro. We talked about all that good stuff. This has been a really good hour talking with you, man. I really, really appreciate it.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
This has been super cool. So
no problem.
Before we cut it off, though, and I ask you my absolute final question, which has nothing to do with any of the shit we've talked about today. Let's go back to the prove me wrong, the hot take, something that you would think about Bitcoin or Bitcoin mining that you think maybe other people, not necessarily everybody, just maybe some people kind of like, you don't like Sailor's haircut or something like that. He's thinking hard on this, man.
Well, actually, for a lot of people would just be better off buying Bitcoin instead of trying to mine it. Taking that Bitcoin, getting it off the exchange. So it sounds like kind of a weird thing for me to say, as a miner, but it's something that I've seen over time where people buy things to get something like that, and then they don't ever ROI on it, and then they end up having to shut it off, and they end up with less Bitcoin than they had, because they would have just used money initially to buy Bitcoin instead of the ASIC. So
I think it's a fair take.
I
say it on midweek mining once in a while. It's not for that's with everything, right? Everything is not for everybody. Not everybody should do this. Like I'll say, like when I was younger, my parents were very blue collar. They weren't the kind of parents that said like you can be whatever you want to be when you grow up. My dad had a saying he used to say, he would say to me, like, he's like, the world needs ditch diggers. Like, not everybody's going to be an astronaut. Like that was his way of just saying, like, not every job, not every hobby, not every interest is for everybody. Not everybody's going to do that. So I think that's a fair take, actually, that, not everybody should mine, especially if you're someone who gets frustrated with things like that. You don't want to have to fix your own stuff. I think probably DCAing's the better way to go.
Well, it's less risky. I mean, what I would say to people who absolutely like you can't tell some people no, and I respect that because I'm one of them, and so I totally get that. And so like if you must, I tell people then start building during the bear market. Be patient and wait for that time because that will happen. Markets are cycles, and so be patient, wait, build and deploy during the bear. That's when hardware is cheaper, infrastructure is available. Even if it's something as small as like the phone mining operation, the largest cost of the operation is the ASICs in general. So if you can slowly over time build something to offset those costs, like install solar and maybe install a 5 kilowatt wind turbine or something small that literally annexes your power bill and, to the point where you can operate at above break even point. Once that market cycle hits, you're in a position to get the ASICs and not have to worry about, 18 months down the road if you're profitable or not, because ASICs are 30 cents on the dollar for the hash rate in bear market, and you know, after 4 or 6 months, you're all profit. So just, something that I try to tell people that had never done this before is that the operators who prepare during the downturns and build in the bear market are the ones who dominate the next cycle.
It's good advice. Definitely good advice. And especially after somebody lives through their first cycle. So getting that might be scary the first time. I think it's scary for a lot of people the first time, but yeah, after you get through it, you're like, okay, now I see where it's coming from. So yeah, I didn't turn mine off this whole time. Everybody's talked about price and everything. To me, I'm at that point in my Bitcoin life that one Bitcoin is one Bitcoin. I don't really look at, I don't look at fiat pricing. So I just let it go.
That's the thing. Over a long enough time frame, all Bitcoin mined becomes profitable. And so if you can find ways to offset your cost of operations and hodl that Bitcoin harder, then you're never really in the red for the years. It's just you have to be sharp enough and innovative enough to see where your efficiency falls short, fix them, and keep pushing the envelope on what you're doing operationally. And that's how you stay ahead of the curve. Otherwise, you get beat by Peter or by the network difficulty rate.
Yep.
So if you're not constantly working on one side of that or the other side of that, you're not going to make it, brother.
Yeah. Bitcoin mining is definitely not set it and forget it. I mean, if you're doing a little lottery miner, you can kind of set it and forget it. But if you're doing it for, for reals, for serious, it's a daily thing. And I think that's the proof of work of what y'all do out there. I mean, it's a minute by minute thing.
Yeah, that's one of the biggest things people misunderstand about remote mining operations, like flare gas deployments and things like that. You get guys who's like, I got like $1 million, $2 million. I want to put this out there. It's like they think it's just plug and play and you can just walk away. In reality, you're building infrastructure in the middle of nowhere. Power stability, weather, logistics, maintenance, shit's real field work, man. Anybody who thinks it's easy has not run an operation off grid. And like the hardest part of running a mining infrastructure like this out in the field is finding capable operators on the ground. Like equipment you can engineer around, and figure things out like that. But you cannot automate integrity or responsibility, dude. And so good people running sites, like boots on the ground daily, make or break the operation, period.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Couldn't agree more. You can't see it right now, but I was almost like internally cheering over here when you said that. You can't automate integrity. That's absolutely right. You still need good people to do it. And that's the key thing. People assets.
I'm going to have to quote myself on that one.
I like
you can't automate integrity.
Oh, that's it. That's your next GIF, your next meme right there, man. That's a good one. That's, I can't see anyone disagreeing with that, but, all right. So let's go ahead and we're going to start wrapping up. We've taken up enough of your time. Before we get to final thoughts and kind of just, the little wrap up there, my final question for you is, it's Friday night. Are you like a tacos and beer guy, or are you like a burgers and bourbon guy?
I'm more of a tacos and burgers, hold the poison, I've got machines and infrastructure to run tomorrow kind of guy.
Fair enough. Fair enough.
Yeah. Maybe throw in a side of some LSD. I don't know, but because the train's going to the station, it's pulling off. There ain't no stopping it, and this has got to be somebody conducting it, right? So
there you go. Somebody's got to drive. Awesome.
Right.
All right. So, Bobby, you got any final questions for our great guest today before we let him get back to his day?
No questions. Just thank you for being here. Thanks for talking about everything, what you do. Incredible. Really look up to you. And yeah, keep doing it, man.
Thanks, brother. I really appreciate your support and your kind words. It takes a lot of grit out here. And if it wasn't for individuals like yourselves, it would not be as enjoyable for me to be out here doing this. I mean, building something that's bigger than myself, people all over the entire world benefit from decentralized energy and monetary network. And so, it's just like not for dollars that I do this, because I started out and it was very, very rough. There were not a lot of dollars, and Bitcoin that was coming was slim too. And so, um, but it's more important than that, right? And so that's why I gotta keep doing it.
Man, that's great. Thank you. Yes. Thank you so much for coming on here. We appreciate it. I'd like to have you back in like 6 months or so if you're available. We'll kind of set something up, kind of see how things are going, just a little touch base. But, yeah, man, really appreciate it. But I can't say anything that Bobby hasn't already said. You know, we thank you for coming on. We appreciate what you do out there. Your proof of work shows through not only in what you're producing out there, but in, you know, even on your social media that, you know, you talk about it. You're honest about it. You don't have to lie about it because your proof of work just speaks for itself. And just, yeah, I really appreciate it. So before we let you go, though, you got any plugs, anything you want to put out there for your X channel, anything like that, so people know how to find you?
Well, you can find me on X at HODLTarantula, and plug Sovereign Hybrid Compute. There's a link in my profile there. You need infrastructure that's privacy oriented and not centralized by AWS. You know, hit us up. We're going to be expanding infrastructure, partnerships, and pushing our model further. So, I mean, same mission I've been on since day one. Build, learn, keep moving forward.
That's awesome, man. I just got this feeling that there's going to be big things coming from you guys with this. I don't see it. I don't see that train slowing down. So that's super cool. That's super cool. All right. Well, we're going to go ahead. We're going to start wrapping up. Again, thank you so much. Appreciate it, HODL, coming on here and talking with us for this. This is the inaugural episode of this, so we appreciate it. Big thanks to Altair Tech for being our sponsor for this. And for those of you that are watching, by the time this gets put up onto YouTube, there will be a little giveaway going on as well for our home miners. We're going to be giving away a Canon Avalon Nano 3S. So kind of keep an eye on that. There'll be some things in here that, you know, how to do that. How you can follow along with that so you can try to win a home miner, especially if you're someone who's just getting into it. This will be a good opportunity for you. We're going to get you a nice home miner so you can get started down this journey. And then maybe one day you'll have a cool metal hat and a huge ass Santa Claus beard. You'll be riding around the Permian Basin or something, telling people the GFY and why they should be taking earth farts and turning it into Bitcoin. So, but anyway, thanks a lot, man. I appreciate it.
Yeah, man.
Yeah, we're going to wrap it up. So thanks.
Absolutely. Appreciate it.
Thank you for watching the Bitcoin Mining Show, brought to you by Altair Tech. www.altairtech.io. Bitcoin mining equipment by real Bitcoin miners.